Could you please state your full name?
Roger C. Rose.
My name is Julia Medore, and we're interviewing at Perry Junior High. Today is April 3rd, 2009. In what branch of military did you serve?
United States Marine Corps.
When did you enter and when were you discharged?
1965, February.
What was a typical day like for you?
Well, if we were in garrison, we'd be doing classes, or I'd be instructing, or if we were in the field, we'd be running field operations.
Did you have any specific duties to do?
I was a small unit leader with a machine guns section.
What did you do in your unit?
I was the leader. I was in charge of 2 machine guns that were assigned to a rifle platoon when we went to the field. I was maintaining the gunners' knowledge, the whole section's knowledge of the machine gun and the tactics that were used.
What was your pre-war education / occupation?
My high school.
Was there anyone in your service days that you remember the most?
Yes.
Who was that?
There's a major. He's now a major, retired a major. He was a sergeant when I first went in. He was my section leader. Major Gilbert Taylor out of Kentucky.
Why did he mean a lot to you?
Well, I was young, and he kind of took me, him and another guy kind of took me under the wing and kept me out of trouble and kept me in the straight and narrow, and gave me the drive to learn my job and do it well.
Are there any memories that really stand out to you?
There's a ton of them.
Is there any specific one?
Yeah, one time we had pulled into Rota, Spain. We were deployed to the Mediterranean. We were on our way back, and we had to pull into Rota, Spain for because of a storm. The storm was too great at sea, and while we were there, they let troops off for base Liberty for about 6 hours. And at the end of it, I had to go with the permanent personnel on the base to leave the base to check all the nightclubs, etc., in town. And on the way back, we thought we had enough time. We did have enough time, but somebody got screwed up on the time, and we pulled up to the dock. The ship was pulling out, so I had to jump and get onto the gangway and get up topside.
Did you make the ship?
Pardon me?
Did you catch?
Oh
the
yes,
ship?
I caught
Okay.
the ship.
How was life when you were on the ship?
Boring.
What theater were you in?
I was in the Lebanon Crisis in 1958 in the Cuban Missile blockade.
What was your highest rank?
Sergeant.
Did you ever receive any medals?
I have a First and Second Award Good Conduct, National Defense, Marine Expeditionary Medal, and an Armed Forces Expeditionary Medal.
How do you receive medals like that?
Good conduct is you have to maintain a certain kind of proficiency mark with a 3-year time period. They'll award a good conduct. The National Defense is issued to everybody, especially now. The Marine Expeditionary was awarded for the Cuban blockade, and the Armed Forces Expeditionary was awarded for the Lebanon Crisis of '58.
What were your thoughts on the Cuban Missile Crisis? Did you think it was handled properly?
I believe so, yes.
What was your opinion on nuclear war?
Scary.
Almost 3 million men and women were sent to fight. Did you think that number should have been less because it wasn't our fight?
Would you repeat that, please?
Almost 3 million men and women were sent to fight. Did you think that number should have been less because it wasn't our fight?
In Cuba?
And
No, I agree with the count.
were you drafted or did you enlist?
No, I enlisted.
Yes.
I enlisted for 3 years and then re-enlisted for 6 more. 6 more.
What did you think when North Vietnam took over South Vietnam after all of our efforts?
Saddened.
If you were in the States during Vietnam, would you have agreed with the peace idea that many people were supporting?
No,
Why wouldn't you have supported that?
because our men were doing what they were trained to do, and they were sent to do a job, and they were trying to do the job, and the politicians wouldn't allow them.
What were your feelings when the ceasefire was issued on July 2nd, 1976?
Saddened,
Why are you sad?
because we could have won it and ended it, and given more people freedom.
What was it like for you to be a part of this war?
I was just at the beginning of it, so I was stateside, but where I was at, I was reading most of the reports that were coming back from there, and it was mixed feelings.
When you returned home, how well did you adjust to civilian life?
A little tough at first,
Why was it hard?
because of I was used to the regimentation of the military, and had more freedom when I got out, more in a sense.
Where did you go during your service time?
I was stationed in Hawaii for 2 years. I was stationed at Quantico, Virginia. I was stationed in Henderson Hall, Virginia. I made 4 different med cruises, 1962, or 1957, 1958, 1963, and 1964. The Caribbean in 62, 61.
Is there anything else you'd like to add to your answers?
No, not at this point. I've got many memories, but
What are some of those memories would you like to share?
when we were in Lebanon, when things got stable, when we finally got things stable over there, and we pulled back, we were into a bivouac area. We had what they called a Gymkhana against the Army that was there. My squad, the squad I had at the time, I was a squad leader then, we were selected to run a competition gun drill against the Army. And we ran our gun drill, and we come out on top. We won.
I want to hear about the Cuban Missile Crisis, like how you were a player in that, like how that, like your whole story there.
Yeah, I was with the I Company 3rd Battalion, 2nd Marines as a section leader at the time. We were aboard the USS Francis Marion, a troop ship. We floated probably 19, 20 days, off and on, back and forth, to Cuba, to Mayport, Florida. We went into El Salvador because the general was on aboard our ship. He had a conference in El Salvador, and we just more or less stayed back, waiting for orders to land. Reports that we got and stories we got and different things that we had seen, it was awesome. I just couldn't believe all the stuff that we had.
And was it handled like as quickly as
Absolutely.
like they say that
we
it
were
was?
we were on alert. They put us at. We used to go into a 2-phase operation. Either standby, where you had base liberty. The brown baggers, the guys who were married, could go home, but everybody else had to stay on the base. If we went into an alert, we were right into the barracks. We lived in the barracks at the time. We couldn't go anywhere. You had to sign out to go to the head. You had to sign out to go get a drink of water, because there was no scuttlebutts in the squad bay. It was all in the hallway. So we were right there. Our gear was all packed, ready to go. We slept just as we were, and when the whistle blew, we were aboard trucks on our way to Cherry Point or Morehead City, North Carolina, depending on which way we were going. But this case, we went to Morehead City and deployed from Morehead City, North Carolina.
Right. And then, so you were on a ship
Yes.
when Kennedy was handling all of this
Yes.
with Brezhnev.
Yes.
Okay.
The closest thing we came really the closest thing we got, what we had to watch it in binoculars is when they did board the ship to check it for the missiles on their way out.
Okay, so were you part of the blockade then?
Yes, we were a part of the blockade, but we were kind of like in a reinforcement area because the Navy took care of everything at sea, and our job was ashore.
Okay. So are there things that like we don't know about, that like retaliation, like from the Florida side, looking out at Cuba at all, or?
Well, Key West was kind of low with missiles, which we knew.
Oh, really?
Was
Okay.
awesome. Yes, they
Okay.
were on their way down, and some were set up in place.
Okay.
One time we did go close enough to where we could look through binoculars and see the skyline, and we did observe some missiles pointed towards Cuba. So,
Wow. That's amazing. See, I think that's so amazing. That's such a part of history that it's huge. And you guys will learn
Well,
about this soon.
I think not, well, a few years ago, I think they even brought that out in either Time Magazine or one of them, that the
That there were missiles.
missile
and-
alignment that was in Key
Okay.
West, I believe so.
So then, what year did you enlist in?
1957,
Okay, and then you were out in 63?
1965.
Oh, 65. So you were in the beginnings of Vietnam.
Yes. Yes.
So-
The last job I had, I was a NCO in charge of a security and classified section of G3 Operations Office, 2nd Marine Division,
And where were you stationed for that?
North Carolina, Camp Lejeune.
Okay,
Camp
okay.
Lejeune.
So you didn't have to go
No,
to Vietnam
no.
then? Okay.
I
all
was
right.
discharged, and at that time they were building up.
Okay.
But what people fail to remember that the United States was committed to Vietnam since 1957.
Okay.
The Army had, and there was a few Marines that were there as advisors in 1957. The big buildup didn't start coming until 1959, 60, and 65.
Okay. So then, like looking back on the Vietnam War, when you were saying about how, when the ceasefire and when we finally started pulling out and everything, you were saddened about that. What did we not do as a government, or what did not happen in order for us to have won? Because you said we could have won it. Like
My
what?
opinion,
Yeah.
they didn't let our boys do their job.
Okay.
And in fact, as far as I'm concerned, we had it won.
Okay.
But they stopped them every time they got to a certain point. The big one I felt should have continued, but you know, not to sound sadistic or anything, was the bombing of Hanoi. I think that would have ended everything
Okay.
if they'd let them continue on.
So would you equate that kind of like with what we did during World War II with Japan, in a way, like if we ended it then?
Well, actually, Japan, we attacked the mainland of Japan, and
Right.
that's the atomic bomb is what did them in. I
Right.
don't say they should have used nuclear warfare, but I think that if they'd have kept the bombing up and stuff, then you know.
Right.
Of course, the problem they ran into, I don't know if a lot of people realize if they read about it or not, but the Ho Chi Minh Trail was bombed constantly,
Right.
and they were rebuilding it overnight.
Right.
So you'd go in tonight and bomb it, and tomorrow morning it'd be all back up, and they'd be going down the trail on bicycles and stuff.
So, like when you came back in '65, what kind of memories can you tell us about, like what was happening here, like the feelings of the public, you know, the mixed emotions, etc. Like what was going on?
A lot of animosity towards servicemen, which I never experienced before coming home. Just as far as I'm concerned, the radical groups were stirring it up.
So you experienced that
A
firsthand?
little bit, not a lot.
Okay.
I mean, you know, maybe the first couple days, I think when I first got off the plane, when I got home in uniform, a few cat calls and stuff, but other than that, no, I didn't get what the other boys got.
Which is, I mean, what were all the things that they did?
They'd spit on them. They'd call them baby killers. A whole multitude of things. You know, demonstrate against them. And in a sense, I think the order was passed not to wear your uniform. So,
Okay.
which to me was a sad situation.
I was thinking, my cousin was on a ship over in Vietnam, and when he went on leave, he came back to San Diego, and I remember his hair was like the length of Julia's, and he had a beard and everything. Did the military get lax, like during Vietnam?
I don't know. I can't speak for everybody else.
Yeah.
The Marine Corps was high and tight, no
Okay.
matter what.
Okay.
And
Okay, so they didn't have that.
not that I'm aware
Yeah,
of.
yeah.
You know, I mean, anybody. I mean, I've guys that got out afterwards. It was grown and beards and
Right.
stuff. You know, but that was
Yeah.
I guess that was a trend with them back then.
Yeah. So did you ever want to re-enlist after
Oh,
you got
absolutely.
back home?
I
You
mean,
did?
my original plan was to be a career Marine, and just things just didn't work out
Okay.
at home.
Okay, right. So you just stayed, or
I stayed home now.
stayed home. Okay. I'm trying to think of what else that is so exciting. But I mean, that the whole Vietnam time period is just I mean,
But people got to realize that in Vietnam, we ran into a different warfare, just like we did in Iraq.
okay,
It's a different type of warfare.
okay,
Or the Second World War, they were in front of you. In Vietnam, it was hit and run. And one of the guys that wrote the book on guerrilla warfare was from Cuba, was Che Guevara. He's the one that wrote the book for Castro on guerrilla warfare.
okay,
And then they finally, he went to one of the other Caribbean countries in there. He finally ended up getting killed, I believe, but he was smart. And of course, Ho Chi Minh was another one. He wrote a book. Guevara wrote a book, and it was all entirely different warfare for us.
so you never experienced combat then, right, or did
A little
you to
bit,
some?
not to where it got to be a dragged down fight.
Okay.
We landed in Lebanon. We made what they call a wet net landing. That's
Okay.
the way we used to land all the time,
Okay.
with no helicopters. And we went in full tactical. We were locked and loaded and hit the beach like we're trained and everything else. And we got there and it was all news people on the beach.
And what conflict was this then?
Lebanon, 58,
Okay, all right,
1958.
okay. So then you were,
We went in to shore up the Lebanese government and request from the president, which was Camille Shimon, who requested from the United States and I believe Britain to come in and help to stop the Syrians from instigating trouble in Lebanon, which at the time they were. The fight was between the Christian, I can't think of the second name, and the Muslims. And I mean, they've been fighting for years,
Oh, yeah.
but we went in and stabilized it a little bit so we could get our own people out.
okay. Yeah, because I'm not familiar with that.
Well,
You
General
were part of it.
President Eisenhower is the one that sent us in.
Okay, okay, all right. Well, now, when you went in, you were right out of high school.
Yes,
Okay, so what,
I was 17 years old.
why did you want to get into the military? Like you,
I don't know, I always wanted to be a Marine.
okay, all right. So just got into it.
In fact, my brother was going to go in the Air Force, and I convinced him to go in the Marine Corps. He was in ahead of me. And
Wow.
when he came home, it didn't set so well, I guess. And then when I left, he just gave me a few pointers what to watch out for and what not to do and what to do. But it worked out fine.
Good. Now, how about, do you maintain friendships with some of the guys you were with?
I do with Major Taylor, another guy by the name of William Renwick in Pennsylvania. I call him now and then. And it's my gunner, which is from Jacksonville, Florida. I haven't talked to him in a while, but I did locate him, and because he originally was my assistant gunner when I was a gunner, and then when I moved up to squad leader, he became my gunner, and he was the one that we ran the gun drill against the Army with
Okay.
in the competition. He's in Jacksonville, Florida. He's a reverend today, so.
Okay. So now, what is a gunner?
Machine gunner, he's the one that,
Door is lit. I don't know if it's open or.
the gunner is the one that controls the gun.
Okay.
Back then it was a light 30 machine gun,
Okay.
so it came in two parts. The assistant gunner carried the gun, which was 31 pounds, and the gunner carried the tripod. So wherever he set the tripod, the assistant gunner had to go over and set it in, and then get the ammo ready, and the gunner would go do his job.
Okay. So then, when you were sergeant and you were in charge,
Section leader.
section leader, how many people did you have underneath you?
Two
then?
guns was probably about, we were never really at TO strength, but I probably had 4 or 5, about 10, 12 men.
For two guns. That's how
Yeah,
big
well,
those
it'd be,
are.
yeah, because you have a gunner, assistant gunner, and your ammo carriers.
Wow.
And that's what they carry is ammo cans to make sure the gun is replenished.
Okay.
We used to call them ammo humpers, so.
Okay. And how much? I don't know if I'm saying this correctly. How many rounds do they?
There's
Does a gun like
the
that
belt is you gotta stop and think, you got me. Like, the belt, I think, was at the time was 250 rounds in a belt. But with a gunner and an assistant gunner going, they could probably spit out 600 rounds a minute.
Wow.
You know,
That's a lot.
you know, they could do it.
Okay.
It can be done.
Yeah. Wow. Amazing.
When I was stationed at Quantico, I was in what they call schools demonstration troops. We worked all the ranges for the FBI Academy. We did demonstrations for dignitaries. At times we tried new equipment. We acted as aggressors for the officer candidates. We acted as aggressors for the officers from basic school. At one short time I was a troop handler for platoon leaders class, guys that came in the summertime. That was a brief. I wasn't at Quantico that long. I transferred out. I got lucky and I transferred out. So, but the time I was there, we did a lot of stuff.
Wow. That's a lot of training.
Yeah, we went to Andrews Air Force Base for demonstrations. I did a couple formal funerals in the Arlington National Cemetery.
What was that? What's a formal funeral like there?
Well, you have your pallbearers, naturally, which is all military, and they bring the honor guard is out there, more or less to maintain an appearance. It's not really maintain an appearance, but it's respect to the family or to the person that's deceased. And you march, you do your thing, and firing squad, and
Which is the 21 gun salute.
21 gun salute.
Nice, very nice.
Trying to think what else.
Anything else that was like a real big memory? I love the part about this ship. If you hadn't made it, what would have happened? That's what I want to know.
Well, they would have gotten me out there, but it was the captain was up there waiting for me when I got there, and he asked where I was. And I told him, I said, "You told me 14:30, and it's only 14:15." They started laughing. So apparently they had a change, and they started pulling out, and they had forgotten that I was on that detail. But I was the only one. I was the last one. I was a sergeant. I was the last one out.
And that was
Of course, the Marines that rode were standing there waving and cheering and everything, but it hadn't pulled away from the pier that much. It was just they were just starting to ease it out with the tugs.
Okay.
So, but it was, I'm going, what the heck are they doing to me here? I got up topside and the first sergeant and the company commander was standing there laughing at me, so.
I love that story though.
They said, well, if you didn't make it, you're going to have to come out on a tugboat. So I figured, well.
So now, go from when you enlisted to when you went out, like the different ranks that you had, like
when I went to boot camp, I got out of boot camp. I was a private. 6 months later, I made PFC. We shipped out in June of 1957 to a med cruise for 6 months. Came back. I came home on leave. I made corporal in I want to say March of 1958. And when we went overseas in the Med again, I was a corporal. In fact, I was told I was youngest corporal in the battalion. I just turned 18. The Marine Corps changed the rank structure. They added a lance corporal. I was considered an NCO. They added a lance corporal in there, which was an E3, which I was. But I had a certain amount of time to make corporal again. E4. So I made it within a specified time. In fact, I made it before that because when I went to Hawaii, I was a corporal E4. And then I made sergeant in 1963. I was given my warrant in Cartagena, Spain. I had to go before the board in Spain.
Wow.
Review board is what they called it.
Okay. So
or
then,
promotion board, I'm sorry.
Okay, and then is that when you were done then?
I was a sergeant.
Okay. So would you say that, I know, I had two questions. What's a med cruise?
Mediterranean cruise,
Yeah.
it's a Marine battalion that's sent to the Mediterranean for 6 months, and they do a lot of landings, training, etc. But what it is a fast action landing force.
Okay.
So if something happened somewhere and we got deployed and got committed, we could hold our own for about 72 hours.
Okay.
And within that 72 hours, they would have more reinforcements.
Okay. So the time that you were in the military, I know that Vietnam was, the end part, but the beginning part, is that considered like peacetime patrol? Is that
In
like
the Mediterranean?
Well, that and like the Cuban Missile Crisis, like what is that? Like, is that classified? Does it have a name or?
Not that I'm aware of.
No.
Just a med cruise, and of course the Cuban crisis was We were committed.
Okay.
We were
Okay,
placed on alert, and we were gone.
all right.
You know, and of course the outcome was we didn't have to hit the beach. So
Okay, gotcha. So then you were shipped all around via
yes,
ships.
yes,
And how long was the longest you were ever on a ship? Then?
6 months.
Oh my
6
gosh.
months at a time. So I've actually 2 years altogether with 4 med cruises.
So what was a day like on a ship? Like, what'd you do?
Well, you had classes, a lot of reading, exercise every morning, and laying around, relaxing. It was just a normal routine. Was some days you'd have classes, some days you wouldn't.
And what were they classes on?
Military, you'd be either on gun nomenclature, rifle nomenclature, squad and infantry tactics, tank and infantry tactics, nomenclature, all the weapons, cleaning weapons. You cleaned your weapon every day. Every day the weapons were cleaned.
And I'm sure the ships were pretty spick and span.
Yeah, the Navy had their part. We had to maintain our own quarters. We lived in we used to call it the hole. We used to live in a hole, and our company size probably was about 200, and that's where we all were, was down in the hole. We slept on bunks that slid up and down the poles. They were about 14, 15 inches. We had enough room to turn around. Or 18 inches, I guess it was. They were stacked up. I think we used to get 6 or 7 on a tier. And it all depends on where you slept in the compartment, how long the tier was.
Wow. So how many guys would be in a compartment then? Like
200. The whole company was there.
Wow.
The whole company, except your officers, naturally,
Okay. Okay.
and staff NCOs.
Wow.
So it was close, close knit family.
How was the food?
Of course, I'm an eater. I like to eat, but I guess I could say I liked the food. There wasn't very much I didn't like. I mean, there were some things I didn't care for. And of course, I think when you go to the field or you go aboard ship and you make a landing or something, you're gone for 9 or 10 days ashore, or you eat sea ration 9, 10 days straight. When you come back, no matter what they give you, it looks good and it tastes good. The Navy, it was all Navy cooks. They, on the Marine, if we were aboard ship on the Marine Corps birthday, which is a big deal to the Marine Corps, they fed us very well. We had everything. Thanksgiving was another meal. I mean, nothing went unleft. I mean, they had, you name it, they had it.
That's good.
So, I mean, and it was all good. It was all good stuff.
Now, do the Navy and the Marines, are they amicable on a ship together?
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
Okay, so
I
there's
mean,
not
you have,
any of
it's
that.
like anywhere else. Oh, you have your fights like anywhere else,
Yeah.
but you usually stick together like glue if somebody's against one side or the other. But
Okay.
it's, yeah, I'd say 99%. You're always going to have 10% that you're not going to get along with, period.
Yeah.
I mean, you have that in civilian life.
Right.
But I'd say, yeah, overall it was okay. It was fine.
Good.
No major problems, you know. And the same with the Army.
Yeah.
I mean, I worked with the Army before, and you know, I don't know. I always seem to get along. I don't know why.
Well, that's
but,
good.
you
That's
know.
good. Well, do you have any thing you wanna any other memory that you can think of that really sticks out? Love the ship thing. That's.
We were doing a NATO operation in Turkey, Saros Gulf, and what they were doing was flying us by helicopter. After we made a wet net landing, it's the way Marine Corps does it, or did it, or does it, or gonna do it again, I guess. They were ferrying us from one beach to another in groups, because at the time you could only load a squad on the choppers that they had at that time, 5 guys at a time. They were ferrying us over, and while the chopper I got my squad on and got on, they hit a wind shift, and the chopper dropped maybe 15 feet and hit the ground. Of course, by then we were stamping our feet. You stamp your feet and you throw all your gear out. Of course, by then all our gear was gone, but the chopper landed safely, everything. So what they did do to us is they put us back on the chopper and they ferried us back and forth for about 45 minutes from one beach to the other, so that we got over that fear of the guys that were scared. We did have a couple that were kind of
Oh yeah.
shook up, but after a while it was fine. It was no problem.
And that's when helicopters first started being used too.
They
around
were
that
being
time.
used. They
Wasn't
were
it?
being used in Vietnam, or I think in the tail end of Korea, because they had the old type.
Okay.
But they were used more or less for evacuating wounded,
Oh, okay.
and the KIAs.
Oh, like on the TV show MASH.
Yes.
I mean, okay. All right.
And then in God, you got me on that one. I was with I Company 3rd Battalion, 2nd Marines, and they put our battalion up to full strength. We boarded an aircraft carrier called the Lake Champlain, and we did the first battalion size. We went up and down the East Coast, from New Jersey to North Carolina, back and forth for 2 weeks we were out. And then we made a landing, what they call a vertical envelopment on Onslow Beach at Camp Lejeune. And that was all by helicopter. We were the first Marine Battalion to try that. And then they were slowly working it in, because they were having flat tops put on these LSDs, and where they could fly 1 or 2 off at a time. And we made a couple of those operations. And that was to land farther inland and behind enemy lines. And now they use them, since Vietnam, they use them wholeheartedly.
Wow.
It's a faster mode of operation. Ours was, when you hit the beach, you walked.
Right.
If you didn't have trucks, you walked. So,
Did a lot of walking.
oh, absolutely, absolutely. Walked all over North Carolina, Suda Bay Creek. Forgot, we're all over the Med, wherever we went in the Med.
So you saw a lot of.
And the only place we live fired in the Med we were allowed to with the NATO agreement was Sardinia in Italy. But that was we did a lot of patrols when we weren't firing. We're still doing maintaining our work and stuff.
Wow.
We do our live fire operations, test all our weapons. They had a rack out in the bay out there they used for practice bombing. They'd come off the carrier, because there was always a carrier near our group. So we were what they call the alligators. We didn't have the elite with us, but they were there.
Okay.
They were there.
Because you're the ones that get off first.
Well, it's what they call wet net. We went over the side in the nets, like you see in the old
Oh.
Second World. Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. That makes sense then. Okay.
Like you see in the old World
Yeah.
War II movies.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what we did, over the net. We used to,
Okay.
and when we were main side, we'd do dry net training. They had towers built that were probably 30, 35 feet high. You came down in the nets with your gear.
Wow.
Everything has to be tied. We handed crew served, what they call, machine gun is what they call a crew served weapon at the time. There was a certain way they were lashed and lowered. The assistant gunner would go down, and then the gunner would lower it into the landing craft, and then group up and go out in circle and then go.
Wow. And how much would your packs weigh?
Probably 40 pounds, maybe more. It all depends. I know they're heavier now because they carry a lot more than we carry now. We only carried 2 changes of clothing, clothes. As many socks as you could get in there, if you could get in there. And of course, I always carried an extra meal in my pack, so I never went without food. I always had an extra can of sea ration somewhere. And plus your helmet. And if you carried a rifle, that was 9 pounds. But everything was hooked on you, so that if you did fall in a drink, your helmet would fly off with the impact of the water, and you just unbuttoned your belt suspender straps, and everything came off.
Wow.
So it just slid right off.
Wow.
So
Did you keep anything?
from the military,
Like, do you have
I
any souvenirs?
got lost in a few shuffles,
A few shuffles?
a few moves,
Yeah.
misplaced or whatever.
My dad still
A
has.
lot of memories. I still have some pictures. I still have my dog tags. It's a few other odds and ends, small things.
Okay.
Memories.
Yeah.
My discharges naturally.
Right. Well, is there any advice that you would give to young people considering going into the military, or really not knowing what they want to do and why the military would be a good option?
To me, I think everybody should go in the military. For the simple reason is it doesn't happen with everybody, but I think most of them, they get their heads on a lot straighter. because you gotta remember, when you go in the military, you're regimented. Everything's done just so. And I think a lot of kids need that. It's an experience. It's not like it used to be. They can get an education out of there. They can go to college. We could go to college. You can go to college. You can get a degree while you're in there. I've known guys that went on. They got teaching degrees. Some got engineering degrees. We had a gentleman that was with us in 1957. He dropped out of the seminary. He did 4 years. He went back to the seminary, and people we talked to said it was the best priest they ever met.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, there's so many things you could do. But they have computers, you can, air controllers for control towers on the airports, mechanics, heavy equipment operators. I mean, it's just the field is widened up so much.
Some good things.
You know,
Yeah.
and I just think it's a good experience. It's a good education. I don't think you can beat it as far as an education goes.
Right, right.
I mean,
Well, I mean, it's such
you always got that 10%.
Right,
I mean, you know,
absolutely, yeah,
they're not going to conform to anything,
Right.
whether military or civilian.
right, right. Well, do you girls have anything else you want to know about anything? No? You sure?
They have women Marines too.
Now, I talked, it was, Jeff Hogan told me this, because he and I were talking about it, about women being on the front lines.
Yes,
And how
they are.
women can
Yes,
now be?
Yes,
Okay, but they couldn't, right?
not in Vietnam.
Okay, not in Vietnam, but they can be, like, over in Afghanistan and Iraq
They're
and
there
stuff?
now.
Okay,
There's transport. There's nurses.
and they're right there, I mean,
Yes,
there's, okay.
yes. They've
Okay.
had a few killed.
Okay,
Young woman just got a Silver Star for first one ever. I think it was the first one, Army.
okay,
I believe she was a transport driver. Different ones that I know that have gone on through the control towers, which is Air Force. Few of them have been. I stopped and think there was so many of them, but at one time or another, a few that I know have been
oh, wow,
under the situation. And of course, they do now.
yeah,
They're in
yeah,
Afghanistan. They're in Iraq.
yeah,
But they're serving a job, they're serving a purpose.
Mhm.
And from what I understand, I guess some of them have even gone on patrols.
wow,
So
okay,
they're trained almost, I guess, like we are now, not like they used to be.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
they go and they fire their weapons, they qualify. Marine Corps, you have to qualify every year,
okay.
no matter what. Every year you qualify.
So you have to prove yourself every
You have to
year.
qualify every year.
Okay,
Because basically every Marine is an 0300, which is infantry, or rifleman.
okay,
So no matter what you do in the Marine Corps, you're an 0300.
okay,
Used to have what they called, like I was an 0331 with some machine guns. If I went into another field, I had what they called a secondary MOS. I still maintained my 0331, but whatever the other field was in, I picked up that MOS. But now they have a specific MOS. If you're an MP, it's an MP MOS. If you're a ground controller, you have that MOS. If you're supply, you have that MOS.
oh, okay, okay.
So they get into logistics and supplies, and
Gosh, there's a lot, I mean, there's a lot to know, a lot to learn and a lot to know.
I look back and I think about it, and it's come a long way since I was in. Really, the equipment's a lot different. It's a lot newer. It's a lot better. And we didn't have bad equipment. I'm not saying that,
Right.
but we were still eating sea rations. In 1958, when we went to Lebanon, we were still eating sea rations they had from Korea.
Wow,
So, but you think about it, it's only 5 years.
yeah, yeah. Good preservatives.
Well, they are. They're good. You know,
Yeah,
lot packed full of vitamins.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Oh. Well, this is great stuff.
the weapons we had, they'd been around. You know, they were all good and well kept.
Well, cleaning them every day.
Yeah,
I'm
you have
sure.
to clean them every day.
Yeah,
Because
I'm
we
sure.
started out, when I started, I was an M1, then it went to the M14, and the AR-15, which is now known as the M16, came in 1963, I think is when they first tried it. They finally adopted it. Because they had a company that was test firing them when I was still there.
Okay.
And they'd finished doing what they had to do, and they finally accepted it. So the weapons have changed over the course of the years.
Right.
You know, we used to have a 60 millimeter mortar in the platoon. Well, a couple of them. It's only a tube about so big, but it's 2 guys can carry it, and there's no problem. Base plate in the tube, and that's it. I think they've done away with them. A lot of things they've done away with, but I know a lot of things they brought back during Vietnam. I know they brought the 60 mortar back. They used that several times. They brought my gun, which is called a light 30. They brought that back a few times with the M60. And I had to change weapons twice. The M1 to the M14 and the light 30 to the M60. So I had to learn 2 new weapons all over again.
And that probably takes a very long time to learn.
Not
doesn't
really.
it?
I
No?
think when you got the basic knowledge, it's all basically the same. It's just you just got to know the nomenclature, how to strip it, how to clean it. Then you got to do it all in the dark again. And I mean, it's just, you know, you just keep this constant practice.
So you do it in your sleep.
Just about, basically. And then you have a lot of classes on it. They load you up with classes. I mean, it's after one right after another. And after a while, you just get to the point where, you know, I don't really need this.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Right.
But you do, and 99% of the guys look at it that way.
Wow.
That thing might save your life.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, this was good stuff.
Yeah.
You think? It's good things?
Anything else? Better get me now. You won't get me again.
I'm good.
They used to. I'm just going to throw this out.
Yeah.
Things that we learned was they used to tell us, the old machine gun, when I had a machine gun squad, they used to tell us from the time you hit the beach to the time you set up and start firing, your lifespan's about 30 seconds. Because the enemy always pinpoints or tries to pinpoint an automatic weapon. It's an automatic weapon.
Okay.
And that's the first thing they go for. That's the first thing we go for, the automatic weapons. And we started using choppers in Vietnam. A door gunner, they used to say, was 5 missions.
And those are the guys that are sitting in the doors,
Sitting in the door
aiming
firing
down.
a machine gun, you know.
Okay.
And the ones they first started out firing was the M60, which was what I did. And they used to say 5 missions, and chances are you're probably going to be
And
wounded
5
or out.
missions was, I take it, going up in the chopper and coming down. That
Wherever
was,
you had
that
to
was
go,
a mission.
yeah, you have to go pick them up or drop them off or whatever. Yeah, that's what I was told. So,
Wow.
And it's, I mean, that's how they teach different things, you know.
Wow.
So we used to say when we hit the beach and set up our gun, all the riflemen used to take off because they didn't want to stick around us. But we had ammo cart, you know. It was a
Yeah.
joke actually what it was. But
Yeah.
they took care of us. And the person we actually took care of was a sailor, the corpsman. Man is gold, no matter where he is.
Okay. And what did you do to take care of him?
What
Like,
did I do to take
yeah,
care of him?
Yeah.
I almost got in trouble for it once, but I had 2 riflemen that I actually assigned to him as a bodyguard. Whenever he moved, they moved. Wherever he went, they went. And the first one I had was a Cherokee Indian, and he used to tell me, "Corporal, you're driving me crazy. I can't go anywhere with these guys." I said, "You're not going anywhere because he's very valuable. He's very valuable to the infantrymen.
Because what is his
Even the
job?
Army medic. The medic.
Oh, you're medic. Okay.
Yeah, he's
Okay.
a corpsman. Yeah,
Okay. All right. And what was the name you said?
corpsman.
Corpsman. Okay.
Yeah, we call
okay.
him corpsman. Navy calls him a corpsman. The Army calls him a medic.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So they,
Yeah,
very,
they-
very valuable. Very
And
valuable.
what kind of training do they get?
The Navy corpsmen, they actually, believe it or not, they're trained by the Marine Corps.
Okay.
They go to what they call a Fleet Marine Force med school, where they learned all the field stuff. And then when they join the company, they change their uniform. They wear Marine Corps green, and they're actually assigned to a rifle company. And when the company goes to the field, they go to the field. When they hit the beach, they hit the beach. So it's not like they're in the hospital somewhere or in a dental office, or they're out in the field. They're doing exactly what we do. They wear the same uniform.
Wow.
So, and the Army medics, I'm not sure about their,
Yeah.
but I'm sure they're
Yeah.
trained about the same
Yeah.
way. But they're Army, strictly
Yeah.
Army.
Well, you need to have them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Some guys will stick it out. Some guys will do their 2 years and go into a hospital or whatever they got to do. Go aboard ship.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see why they'd
We've
be
had
very
we've had a
important.
few. Like no, I can't think of their names right now. But we had a first class corpsman when I first joined the 6th Marine Regiment when I first went in, and he was he'd been around a long time. He was very capable and qualified to do an appendectomy if he had to, with no doctor around.
Wow.
I mean, he knew his medicine.
Yeah,
Of course,
yeah.
he was what we called a lifer. He was in for the full 20. I think he had about 18, 19 years in when I first hooked up
Wow.
when I first met him.
Yeah.
A great guy, knew his stuff, and he
Yeah,
passed
yeah.
it on to the guys underneath him. So, and then they had another guy that was he could do minor surgery if he had to. And of course, they could all sew you up if you got cut or something. But
Yeah.
you know, other than normal sick call.
Wow. Amazing. Well, this is awesome.
I used
Thank
to have 2 sick calls
And what was
with
the?
my troops. It was either my sick call or the battalion, because when I went in, they'd go to sick call. I'd be standing there, they wouldn't go. 'Cause we used to call them sick, lame, and lazy, and we used to have to stay in a company formation every morning at 7 o'clock. The whole company was there. When I went in, Reveille went at 5:30. Liberty expired at 5:35. Everybody had to be back aboard base and in the barracks. Then at 7 o'clock, we went to chow, and at 7 o'clock, we company formation. And they used to, first sergeant say, oh, sick, lame, and lazy out front, or out in the back, or whatever. And they'd fall out. Say, report to sick call. So they'd walk into sick call, and I'd be sitting there, they'd turn around and walk out. They didn't have a headache, they didn't have a butt ache or nothing, they just forget it. So, we had a lot of laughs with that, but wasn't too well accepted sometimes.
That's funny.
I mean, there's a lot of little things that go on that people don't realize, you know.
Oh, I'm sure. A lot of things when these guys, not you guys, present company excluded, but when kids, I have a stomach ache, that probably wouldn't go over. Or
Well, you know, I mean, you
headache
had
or-
some guys that were really sick. I'm not
Yeah.
saying you didn't, you
Yeah.
know, but they'd look at this thing and they'd know where we were going, or they'd say, we're going to the field today. So, I don't want to go. They're hungover from the weekend or something, and they'd try to get into sick call. And most of the time they did,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, but sometimes they didn't.
Oh, that's funny.
Nothing worse than going to the field with a hangover.
Yeah.
When it's about 90 degrees in North Carolina and humidity's high.
Right, right. Wow. Well, we're glad you came.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thanks for doing this.
Anything else you want? I can help you or try or answer or,
He's here every day after 3:30, so if you remember
yeah.
anything that you want to know.
I'm right down the 8th grade hall after 3:30.
You are?
Yeah, I work down the 8th grade hall. I work here.
Oh. Okay.
He takes good care of us after hours. So we could ask him anything you think of, especially when we get into, when you start learning about some of the time period. That's the hard part about a lot of this is they haven't learned about that.
Well, I
time
think,
period.
I think I was very fortunate because I made 4 med crews. And even though I went to a lot of countries 4 times, to see how other people live, or did live then, I don't know about now.
Right.
I thank God every day I live here. I really do. I grumble like anybody else
Yeah.
does, but
No, we're very fortunate.
you see people, they got a house, they go in, they got dirt floors, no toilets, no tubs, they cook on an open fire, and it's just unheard of, to me.
Right. So what were the countries you did see?
Italy, Spain, Greece, Turkey, Lebanon. You really got me on that one. Was in Tripoli, I was in Libya briefly, but all over the Med,
Okay.
you know.
Entered from the west and
We went
And
through
then-
Gibraltar,
okay.
yeah. Go through Gibraltar and then all depends, around the Horn, back past Africa and wherever we were headed for. Usually, it used to take us 12 to 14 days from Morehead City to the Med by ship, but they do maneuvers on the way over.
Okay.
The Navy runs their maneuvers. And then when we get into the Med, then they go to a Liberty port,
Okay.
6, 7 days or whatever, however I was scheduled. Then we'd leave and go to an operation somewhere, could finish that, and then it all depends. We had another one on top of it. Usually they try to break it up with Liberty ports.
So how much free time did you have in those countries?
Wherever you're Liberty, you had 7 days. You had
Oh,
7
okay.
days. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, you got Liberty every day, unless you We're restricted to the ship for some reason.
Okay.
But
So you could take off and you could either stay in hotels or come back to the ship?
oh no
and
no
st-
no no
Oh,
no
okay.
they had what they call Cinderella Liberty,
Okay,
and it all depended what port you're in.
okay,
In Italy, we used to have Cinderella Liberty. You had to be back aboard by midnight. That
Oh.
was it.
okay.
In Spain was 3 a.m. because Spain takes a siesta and everything doesn't start till. So they used to let us,
Okay,
you know, they give us a couple extra hours.
okay.
But most of them was Cinderella Liberty. You
Neat.
did, you know,
Yeah.
but then you went to go back out the next day. So,
Well, that's kind of nice, though.
yep. It
You had
was.
your hotel and food and everything, right? I mean, more
No
or less.
hotel, board ship. That was it. You know, you had your meals. Yeah, they
Yeah,
still fed
yeah,
you. You know,
yeah.
you still got to go out and raise heck at night or whatever.
Right, right. Well, that's good. Good way to see the world.
It is, and it's an
Uh-huh.
experience, and it's
It
an
is
education.
experience. Yeah,
It really
it is.
is.
It is.
It's a shame how some of these people live. I just can't, you know, believe it.
Well, you have a nice appreciation then for our country. You know, and
Pardon me?
You have a nice appreciation.
Oh, I do,
For our
absolutely,
country then,
absolutely.
you know.
I mean, there's people here that don't realize how well they've got it.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you can talk about people and get away with it here. You go over there, they'll throw you in jail, no problem. We were in Barcelona, Spain. We went into a store. We were buying souvenirs, and